grave whisper.
People think New Jersey is highways, diners, and suburbs stacked on top of each other. They don't talk much about the Pine Barrens, and when they do, they laugh, like it's some local joke, a myth, a patch of woods too boring to be dangerous. I used to laugh too. My name is Daniel Mercer. I was 34 when I drove into the Pine Barrens alone, following a road that didn't exist on my GPS. The sun was dropping low, turning the sky the color of rusted metal. I told myself I had plenty of time. That was my first mistake. The road narrowed until the pavement cracked into dirt. Pine trees crowded close on both sides, their trunks blackened like they'd survived fires no one remembered. The air smelled wrong, sweet and rotten at the same time, like wet leaves and old blood. My phone lost signal. No bars, no map, just a spinning icon that never resolved. I slowed the car, heart thudding harder than it should have. That's when I noticed something strange. The woods were silent. No birds, no insects, even the wind seemed afraid to move. I rolled down the window, half expecting to hear something, anything, but the quiet pressed in, thick and heavy. It made my ears ring. Then I saw the sign. It leaned crooked beside the road, half swallowed by vines and moss. The paint was faded, letters cracked and peeling. Whites Bog, established 1872. I frowned. Whites Bog was abandoned decades ago, a cranberry town that dried up and vanished. I'd read about it once. There wasn't supposed to be a road leading into it anymore. I should have turned around. Instead, I drove forward. The trees thinned, revealing the skeletal remains of buildings, collapsed shacks, rusted barrels, old wire fences bent into unnatural shapes. My headlights flickered, even though it wasn't fully dark yet. That's when I heard it. A sound that didn't belong to any animal I knew. It started as a low whine, like metal twisting under pressure. Then it rose into something sharper, almost a scream, but not human. Too long, too strained, like lungs that weren't built for air. I slammed on the brakes. The sound cut off instantly. Silence rushed back in, louder than before. My hands were shaking. I laughed nervously, alone in the car, telling myself it was just a fox or wind through dead trees, or my imagination feeding on too many late-night documentaries. But then I saw the footprints. They crossed the road in front of my headlights, deep impressions in the dirt, long, narrow, ending in shapes that looked like hooves, but wrong, split unevenly, like something had tried to copy an animal and failed. I stepped out of the car. The cold hit me first, not winter cold, something deeper, old, the kind that crawls under your skin and settles there. The woods felt closer now, pressing in from all sides. I followed the tracks with my flashlight, heart pounding so loud I was sure something out there could hear it. The footprints stopped abruptly. No return path, no drag marks, just gone. That's when I realized something else. The road behind my car wasn't there anymore. Where pavement should have been was nothing but dense pine forest, trees packed tight like a wall. I turned in a slow circle, breath coming fast. That was when a voice whispered my name. Not from behind me, not from the woods, but from above. Daniel. And whatever said it didn't pronounce it quite quite right. I stood frozen beneath the trees, my flashlight shaking in my hand, staring up into nothing. The whisper of my name faded like it had never been there at all. No movement in the branches, no shape against the sky, just pine needles stitched together so tightly they erased the stars. I told myself I was done standing still. Panic is loud when you let it speak. I forced it down, took a breath, and walked back to the car. The engine turned over on the first try, which felt like a small mercy. The headlights cut through the dark, revealing the dirt road ahead. I drove forward because there was nowhere else to go. The trees parted again, and Whites Bog opened up before me. Calling it a town felt generous. It was more like the memory of one. Houses sagged under their own weight. Porches collapsed inward like broken ribs. Windows stared out, black and empty, but I had the sick feeling they were still watching. The headlights swept across a general store sign hanging by one rusted chain. White's Provisions. Someone had scratched something underneath in deep, jagged letters. It knows your name. I swallowed. The engine stalled. The sudden silence was unbearable. Come on, I muttered, twisting the key again. Nothing, not even a click. That's when I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow, controlled, close. I turned off the headlights and sat in the dark, heart hammering. The breathing continued, circling the car. Boots or hooves crunching softly on gravel. Then a hand pressed against the driver's side window. It was too large, fingers long and bent at the wrong angles, nails black and split. The skin looked stretched, thin like it didn't belong on the shape beneath it. The hand slid away. I didn't move. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Time felt warped, like syrup. Eventually, the breathing stopped. I waited until my lungs burned before daring to move again. I grabbed the flashlight and stepped out. The town smelled worse up close. Old smoke, rot, something metallic. I walked toward the general store, boots crunching over broken glass. Inside, shelves lay overturned, cans rusted and burst open decades ago. But the dust was disturbed. Footprints marked the floor, bare footprints, large, hoofed impressions mixed with something disturbingly human, and smaller ones, children. I backed away slowly. That's when I noticed the photographs. They were pinned to a cookboard behind the counter, old black and white pictures curled at the edges, families smiling stiffly, men in work clothes, women holding babies, and in every photo, standing just behind them, was the same shape, tall, lean, horns curling back from its skull, wings folded like rotting curtains, its face blurred as if the camera itself refused to remember it clearly. In the last photo, the family was missing. Only the creature remained. My reflection stared back at me from the cracked glass of the frame. For a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw horns rising from my own head. I stumbled outside, gasping. The town was no longer empty. Lights flickered on in houses that hadn't had power in decades. Shadows moved behind curtains that didn't exist. I heard doors creak open. Footsteps approached from every direction. Voices whispered. Some called my name. Others begged for help. A woman cried somewhere to my left, sobbing like she'd lost something she could never get back. A child laughed from behind me, the sound warped and wrong, like it was being played through water. I ran. I didn't care where, I just ran. The road led past the edge of town into the woods again. Branches clawed at my jacket, roots grabbed at my feet like hands trying to pull me down. Behind me, something moved fast, too fast. I could hear wings beating, heavy, labored but powerful. The air shook with each movement. The scream returned, closer now, echoing between the trees. I tripped and fell hard, the flashlight skidding away. In the darkness, I felt hot breath against my neck, and a voice right against my ear said, "You shouldn't have answered the road." I lay there frozen as a shadow passed over me, and the woods held its breath.
The shadow lifted. For a moment, I didn't move, not because I was frozen with fear, but because some instinct deep inside me said that if I did, I wouldn't be alive long enough to regret it. The thing above me exhaled. Its breath was hot and damp, reeking of iron and wet fur. I felt it brush the back of my neck, slow and deliberate, like it was tasting the air around me. Then it stepped away. I rolled onto my side and scrambled backward, clawing at dirt and pine needles until my back hit a tree. My fingers closed around the flashlight. I didn't think, I just turned it on. The beam cut through the darkness, and I finally saw it. It stood several yards away, partially obscured by the trees, but there was no mistaking the shape. It was tall, easily 7 feet, with legs bent backward like a deer's, ending in cracked black hooves that sunk into the ground. Its torso was narrow, ribs visible beneath stretched grayish skin that looked too tight, like it had been pulled over the wrong frame. Its arms hung too long at its sides, joints bulging in places they shouldn't. Clawed hands flexed slowly, as if testing the air. Then there were the wings. They were massive, leathery, torn in places, veins visible beneath the thin membrane. They twitched occasionally, shedding bits of bark and needles as they brushed against the trees. But the face, that was what broke something inside me. It was elongated, almost horse-like, with a split jaw that didn't quite close properly. Horns curved back from its skull, rough and uneven, like they'd grown that way through pain. Its eyes reflected the flashlight beam with a dull amber glow, intelligent and ancient, not animal, not human, something that remembered being both. We stared at each other. I expected it to attack, to scream, to tear me apart like every story warned. Instead, it tilted its head, studied me. "You can see me," it said. Its voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It sounded dry, brittle, like leaves being crushed underfoot. The words came slowly, as if it wasn't used to speaking aloud. "I can see," I managed, my throat burning. A thin, broken smile pulled at its mouth. "Most don't," it replied, "not at first." My heart pounded so hard I thought it might give me away. "Are you the Jersey Devil?" The thing let out a sound that might have been a laugh or a cough. "That is what they call the story. I am what remains." It stepped closer. The ground vibrated under its weight. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs refused to listen. "Why didn't you kill me?" I asked. It stopped just beyond arm's reach. "Because you're already here, and because you heard the road." I frowned. What does that mean? The creature glanced toward the woods, toward where Whites Bog sat hidden behind the trees. Its wings shifted uneasily. "This place doesn't take everyone," it said. "It waits, it listens, it remembers." Its eyes returned to me, and sometimes it chooses. A branch snapped somewhere nearby. The creature's head snapped toward the sound. Its posture changed instantly, tense, alert. "You're not alone," it said quietly. Cold washed over me. "What do you mean?" Before it could answer, a new sound rose from the woods. Voices, dozens of them, not whispers this time, chanting, low, rhythmic, layered over one another in a way that made it impossible to tell how many there were. The creature snarled, a deep, rumbling sound that shook its chest. "They should have stayed buried," it growled. Shapes began to move between the trees, human silhouettes, too thin, too stiff. Their eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the flashlight just like the creatures had. Ghosts, or something worse. "What are they?" I whispered. "Those who tried to leave, and those who fed me to save themselves." The chanting grew louder. The creature spread its wings fully now, blocking my view of the approaching figures. "Run," it said. I stared at it in disbelief. "Are you telling me to run?" "Yes," it snapped, "because once they see you clearly, they won't stop." I hesitated. "Why help me?" For a moment, the creature didn't answer. Then it said, almost sadly, "Because I remember what it's like to be lost." The figures surged forward. The creature let out a scream that tore through the forest, wings beating violently. The blast of air knocked me backward. I turned and ran. Behind me, the woods erupted into chaos, screams, wings, the sound of something ancient colliding with things that should have stayed dead. I didn't look back. I ran until my lungs burned, until the chanting faded, until the trees thinned again. And when I finally collapsed near a narrow, broken road, I realized something terrifying. The creature hadn't chased me. It had let me go. I woke to the smell of smoke. Not fresh smoke, old smoke, soaked into wood and earth, the kind that lingers long after the fire is gone. My body ached like I'd been dragged across gravel. Pine needles were stuck to my face, my clothes damp with dew. Dawn crept through the trees in thin gray lines. For a few seconds, I convinced myself it had all been a dream. The town, the chanting, the creature. Then I saw the marks in the dirt, deep gouges, hoof prints, drag lines that ended abruptly, as if something had been pulled straight down into the ground. The road beside me was real this time, cracked asphalt, faded yellow lines. My car was parked crooked a few yards away, exactly where I didn't remember leaving it. The keys were still in the ignition. I stared at them, afraid to touch anything, like the woods might notice and change its mind. When I finally got in and turned the engine on, it started without protest. No warning lights, no flickering, almost eager. I drove. The pine barrens thinned slowly, reluctantly. Trees pulled back like they were watching me leave, memorizing the way I moved. By the time I hit the main highway, the sun was fully up and traffic was flowing like nothing was wrong with the world. I didn't stop driving until I reached a diner off Route 70. Inside, everything smelled like coffee and
grease and safety. I slid into a booth and just sat there, shaking, until a waitress asked if I was okay. I almost told her everything. Instead, I said I'd gotten lost. She nodded too quickly. Happens out there. The way she said out there made my stomach twist. Back home, I tried to forget. I threw my muddy clothes away. I scrubbed my boots until the leather cracked. I avoided news articles about hikers missing in South Jersey, even when the headlines crept into my feed. For a while, it worked. Then the dreams started. Every night, I walked the same road, the one that didn't exist. The trees leaned closer each time. Sometimes I heard chanting, sometimes wings, and always the creature watched from a distance. It never chased me. It waited. The dreams changed after a week. I wasn't running anymore. I was standing beside it, watching. In one dream, I saw Whites Bog alive, people working, children playing, smoke rising from chimneys. Then the screaming started. Fire, panic. I watched families drag someone into the woods. I watched them beg. I watched the creature accept. That's when I woke up, gasping, my mouth tasting like ash. That's when I found the mark. It was on my shoulder blade, dark and branching like a burn scar, shaped into something almost symbolic. Hooves, wings, a twisted circle around them. It wasn't painful, but it was warm. I called a local historian, told him I was researching Pine Barrens folklore. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. You went in, didn't you? I got lost, I said. Another pause. Then, if it let you leave, it marked you. My blood ran cold. Marked me for what? For remembering and for owing. He told me the truth people don't put in books. The Pine Barrens isn't cursed. It's a ledger. Every town that starved, every family that made deals they couldn't pay, every soul offered up to survive one more winter. The creature didn't hunt randomly. It collected. And when there wasn't enough blood left to balance the debt, it waited. And people like you, I asked quietly, witnesses, messengers, sometimes replacements. The dreams worsened. I started hearing the creature's voice when I was awake, in the hum of traffic, in the rustle of leaves, in my own breathing. You heard the road, it would say. You remember. One night I woke up standing in my backyard, barefoot. The mark on my back burned like a brand. The woods behind my house, woods that never been there before, shifted in the darkness. Pines swayed where fences should have been. And far away, I heard chanting. That's when I understood. The Barrens hadn't let me go. It had let me spread.
The chanting followed me everywhere after that. Not loud, never clear, just beneath the noise of everyday life, like a second rhythm I couldn't escape. It hummed in the background of conversations, crept into the pauses between songs on the radio, surfaced in the dead silence before sleep. I stopped telling myself it wasn't real. The mark on my back grew darker, the lines sharper, like ink settling deeper into skin. Sometimes it itched, sometimes it pulsed in time with my heartbeat, and sometimes, late at night, it felt like something was pressing outward from beneath it, like a door being tested. I didn't go back to the Pine Barrens, not physically, but parts of it came to me anyway. Leaves appeared in my apartment hallway, pine needles that crunched underfoot and vanished when I bent to pick them up. My bathroom mirror fogged even when I hadn't run the shower, and for a split second I'd see horns rising behind my reflection. Then the creature came back, not in a dream, not in a whisper. I was driving home after midnight, taking a back road I didn't remember choosing. The headlights dimmed, the air thickened, and there it was, standing in the middle of the road, like it always belonged there. I stopped the car. It didn't need me to get out. Up close, it looked worse than I remembered, more worn. Cracks ran along its horns. One wing sagged slightly, the membrane torn and scarred. "You're leaking," it said. I swallowed. I didn't mean to. I know. The debt is old. It bleeds through those who hear it. "What do you want from me?" My voice shook. The creature stepped closer. Its eyes flicked to the trees lining the road. Normal trees, suburban trees, but I could see the pine barrens layered beneath them, like a shadow reality. "I don't drag people back," it said. "I don't need to." "What does that mean?" "It means you'll walk on your own." The chanting rose, louder now. "You marked me," I said. "You let me go." "Yes," it agreed, "because I can't leave the Pine Barrens, but you can." A cold realization crept in. "You want me to bring people." The creature didn't deny it. Not force, not lies, just roads, curiosity, stories. I shook my head. "No, I won't do that." Its gaze hardened, not angry, but tired, ancient. "Then the ledger will balance another way." Images flooded my mind, families disappearing, cars found abandoned, children wandering out of the woods with no memory of how they got there. "You don't have to," it continued. "Most don't. The Pine Barrens always finds another voice." Silence fell between us. "Why me?" I asked. The creature looked almost ashamed. "Because you saw me and didn't beg." It stepped back, wings rustling softly. "When the road appears again, you'll know." Then it was gone. The headlights returned to full brightness. The road was empty. I drove home shaking. I tried to resist. I avoided back roads. I stopped telling stories. I stayed away from the woods. But the mark burned hotter every day, and the chanting grew more insistent. Then my cousin Mark called. He was planning a camping trip in South Jersey, asked if I knew any good secluded spots. I opened my mouth to warn him. Instead, I heard myself say, "There's this old road I once took." The words felt borrowed. That night, the mark finally broke skin. Blood traced the shape of wings down my back, warm and slow. I knew then the creature had been telling the truth. It doesn't drag you back to the Pine Barrens. It lets you walk there willingly. And once you do, you help others find the way.
Mark didn't disappear right away. That's the part people don't understand. The Pine Barrens isn't a trap door. It's a slow invitation, a suggestion that grows louder the longer you listen. We met at a gas station just off the highway. Mark was smiling, excited, already half gone in that way people get when they think they're escaping something. His car was packed with camping gear, cheap beer, and a brand new GPS unit clipped to the dash. "You sure this place exists?" he asked, laughing. I nodded. "It's easy to miss." That wasn't a lie. I told him I'd meet him later, watched his taillights disappear down the road. I didn't follow. I couldn't. That night I dreamed I was standing at the edge of the trees again. The creature stood beside me, silent, its wings folded tight. Somewhere deep in the woods I heard Mark's voice calling my name. I woke up sweating, the chanting pounding in my skull. By morning, my phone was full of missed calls, Mark's wife, his brother, numbers I didn't recognize. They found his car abandoned near a service road deep in the Barrens, tent still in the trunk, keys still in the ignition, GPS stuck in a loop, insisting he was driving in circles. There were footprints leading into the woods, only one set coming back out. They questioned me. I told the truth, or enough of it. I said I'd mentioned the area in passing, that he was an adult, that he liked isolated places. They let me go. The mark on my back cooled for the first time since I'd gotten it. That's when I understood the rule. I didn't have to lead anyone there. I just had to make sure the road existed. The creature returned that night, not on the road this time, in my apartment. The lights flickered, then went out completely. The air filled with the smell of pine and wet earth. When my eyes adjusted, it was standing in my living room, ducking slightly beneath the ceiling. "You paid," it said. "I didn't mean to," I whispered. "I know." I waited for it to say more, to demand another name, another debt. Instead, it looked relieved. "They don't all stay," it said. "Some run, some fight, some bargain." "And Mark?" My voice cracked. The creature didn't answer directly. "He walks," it said. "So do many others. The Barrens keeps them busy." A terrible thought struck me. "You mean they're alive?" "Alive," it said. "Changed." The chanting drifted in through the walls, faint but steady. "You said the ledger balances. When does it end?" The creature's eyes softened with something like pity. "It doesn't." It stepped closer, lowering its head so we were almost eye level. "But neither do you," it added. After that, things accelerated. Missing persons reports spiked in South Jersey. Hikers, urban explorers, people who swore they saw a road on a map that wasn't there the day before. And everywhere I went, the Barrens followed. Trees where there shouldn't be trees, dirt under my fingernails no matter how much I washed. People I'd never met stopping me on the street, asking without knowing why if I knew any quiet places to get away. I tried to stop talking. I tried to isolate myself. It didn't matter. The road started appearing on its own, on printed maps, on navigation apps, in the backgrounds of photos posted online. A thin gray line leading nowhere, labeled with names that changed every time you looked at them. Whites Bog, Leeds Point, Estelleville, and always, always the same destination, the Pine Barrens. One night, I found a message written in dirt on my kitchen counter. "You're not the first." Underneath, a crude drawing of wings. I realized then that the creature wasn't the only thing bound to the Barrens. It was just the most honest. Her name was Emily Crane.
At least, that's the name she used when she knocked on my door just after sunrise, looking like she'd walked out of a forest fire. Her clothes were torn and smoke-stained, pine needles were tangled in her hair, and her eyes never stopped moving, like she was afraid the walls might shift if she looked away too long. "I found you," she said before I could speak. "The road told me to." The chanting surged the moment she crossed my threshold. I let her in. She sat on the edge of my couch, hugging her arms to her chest. Up close, I could see the scars, thin white lines circling her wrists and ankles like restraints that had burned their way into her skin. "You were in the Barrens," I said. She nodded. "I walked out. That shouldn't have been possible." "Not many do," I said carefully. Her mouth twitched into something that might have been a smile. "Not all the way." She told her story in pieces, like her mind couldn't hold it all at once. She'd gone hiking with friends. They'd followed a trail that vanished halfway through. Night fell too fast. The woods rearranged themselves. "They make you think you're alone," she said. "Then you realize you're not." She described towns hidden under moss and ash, fires that never went out, people living the same day over and over, terrified to sleep because sleep meant being counted. "By what?" I asked. She looked at my shoulder, at the mark beneath my shirt. "You know," she said. I swallowed. She said the creature wasn't the worst thing in the Barrens. "It's just the face," she whispered, "the part that speaks." According to Emily, the Barrens itself was waking up, not like an animal, like a memory. Every deal ever made there had soaked into the soil, every promise broken, every sacrifice offered up and forgotten. The creature wasn't collecting for itself, it was holding something back. "From what?" I asked. She leaned closer. "From finishing." The chanting grew louder, bleeding into actual words now. Names, dates, places, towns erased from maps, families erased from records. Emily said the Barrens was preparing to expand, not physically, conceptually, to places that feel the same, neglected, forgotten, places that don't think anyone's watching. I thought of my apartment, my neighborhood, the woods that had appeared behind my house. "You help it find those places," she said softly. "You and others like you." "I didn't choose this," I said. She nodded. "Neither did I." She pulled back her sleeve and showed me her arm, a mark similar to mine, but incomplete. The wings were broken, the circle unfinished. "I escaped before it set, that's why it hurts." As if on cue, she gasped, clutching her arm. "They're looking for me," she said. "Not the creature, the others." The lights flickered. Something scratched at my door. Slow, patient. Emily grabbed my wrist. Her grip was ice cold. "You still have a choice," she said. "Once the mark finishes, you won't." The scratching turned into knocking. 3 slow taps. I didn't need to look through the peephole to know what was on the other side. The chanting stopped. The silence that followed was worse. The knocking came again. 3 slow, deliberate taps, each one perfectly spaced, like whoever stood outside was counting my breaths. Emily's fingers dug into my wrist. "Don't answer," she whispered. "They can't come in unless you acknowledge them."
Who is they? I asked, barely moving my lips. Her eyes flicked toward the door. The collectors. Another knock. The walls creaked, settling in a way my apartment never had before. The air smelled like damp soil, like rain that never quite reached the ground. I stepped closer to the door despite myself. "Daniel," a voice said from the other side. It was calm, familiar. It sounded like my father. He'd been dead for 12 years. Emily shook her head violently. "That's not him." "I know," I whispered, but my hand hovered inches from the doorknob anyway. "They don't chase, they remind." The voice outside sighed, soft and disappointed. "You were always curious. That's how you ended up here." Images flashed in my mind, memories that weren't mine. People opening doors in the middle of the night, stepping aside, letting something pass through them. The mark on my back burned. I felt it spreading, lines tightening, wings closing their shape. "I didn't bring her," I said aloud, not sure who I was talking to. "She came to me." Silence. Then the voice changed. It became Emily's. "I just want to come home, please." Emily let out a strangled sound. "Don't listen. They use the shape that hurts most." The knocking stopped. For a moment, I thought it was over. Then the door handle turned, slowly, gently, like someone testing a lock they knew would hold. "It's almost finished. You've done so well." Something brushed against the inside of my door. Not a hand. Something flatter, broader. I backed away, pulling Emily with me. "Is the creature one of them?" she asked. "No. It's what they made when they needed something to stand between them and the rest of us. A shield, a warden." The chanting returned, distant but swelling, like a crowd gathering outside a stadium. "They don't want her, they want you." The realization hit like ice water. The Barrens didn't need messengers forever. It needed anchors, places where it could press through without tearing itself apart. "You open that door and it finishes you." The creature's scream cut through the chanting, furious, defiant. The walls shook, dust rained from the ceiling. The knocking stopped. Heavy footsteps retreated down the hall. For the first time since this started, the mark on my back cooled. Emily collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. "It's protecting you, for now." I stared at the door long after the sounds faded. That night, I dreamed of roots spreading beneath the state, under cities, under houses, under me. When I woke, the door was still closed, but a message had been carved in the wood from the outside. "The oak opens soon."
The carving on my door didn't fade away. I tried sanding it down, painting over it, covering it with a hanging mirror. Every time I looked away and looked back, the words were there again, cut deeper, darker, like the wood itself was remembering. "The road opens soon." Emily stayed with me for 3 days. She slept in short bursts, jolting awake at the slightest sound. Sometimes she spoke in her sleep, whispering names I didn't recognize. Sometimes she screamed. On the third night, the creature returned.
Not violently, not suddenly. It simply stepped out of the corner of the room, unfolding itself from shadow like it had always been there. Emily screamed anyway. "Easy," it said, lifting its hands, not in surrender, but in recognition. She stared at it, shaking. "You let them hunt me." "I slowed them," the creature replied. "That is all I can do." I stood between them. "You said I'd know when the road appears again." The creature nodded. "It's already forming." The room felt smaller, the walls subtly curved inward as if space itself was bending. "What happens when it opens?" I asked. The creature's wings twitched. Then the barren stops pretending to be a place. Emily sucked in a breath. "It becomes a direction." The creature looked at her, surprised. "You learned." "I listened," she said bitterly. "That was my mistake." The creature turned back to me. "When the road opens fully, it won't just lead into the woods. It will connect every forgotten place, every neglected town, every abandoned stretch of land." "And the collectors?" I asked. "They will no longer need to knock." The chanting seeped in through the walls again, closer now, names overlapping, repeating, stacking on top of each other until they lost meaning. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. The creature stepped closer. I could see cracks in its skin now, light leaking faintly from within, like it was holding something together by force of will alone. "You are marked as a hinge, a point of change." My mouth went dry. "Change how?" "It can let the road open through you," it said. "Make it easy, clean, controlled." Emily looked at me in horror. "That would anchor it here, permanently." The creature didn't deny it. "Or," it continued, "you can close it." I laughed weakly. "You're telling me I can stop something that's been building for centuries?" "No," it said, "you can delay it by becoming something else." The room darkened. "What kind of something else?" I asked. The creature's eyes met mine. "A replacement." Emily grabbed my arm. "That's what it did to you. It wants to step down." The creature bowed its head. "I am tired." For the first time, I understood. It hadn't been protecting the barrens for power. It had been doing it because someone had to. When the road opens, one of us must stand in it, hold it closed, take the weight. "And if I don't?" I asked. The creature looked past me, through the walls, through the city, toward the unseen woods spreading beneath everything. "Then they will." That night, the road appeared outside my window. Not asphalt, not dirt, just a long, pale absence stretching between the buildings, lined with pines that hadn't been there an hour before. Cars passed it without seeing it. Pedestrians walked straight through it, shivering without knowing why. Emily watched it form, tears running silently down her face. "You still have a choice," she said. I felt the mark on my back complete itself. The wings closed, the circle sealed, and somewhere deep beneath us, something vast and patient began to move.
The road waited. It didn't rush me. That was the worst part. It stretched outside my window like a held breath, pale and unfinished, humming softly with names I almost recognized. The pines lining it swayed without wind, their needles brushing against buildings that should have blocked them. Emily stood behind me, silent now. She knew. The creature stood at my side, its massive frame trembling, not with fear, but with relief. For the first time since I'd met it, I understood what it was feeling. An ending. "If I do this," I said, "you're free." "Yes," it replied, "and you will not be." I nodded. "Will I still be me?" The creature hesitated. "Enough." That was the only honest answer. We stepped onto the road together. The moment my foot touched it, the city peeled away, sound drained, color thinned. I felt myself stretch, not physically, but conceptually, like my name was being pulled in opposite directions. The road wasn't a surface, it was a question. The chanting stopped. The collectors watched from a distance now, shapes folded into shadows, unable to cross while the choice was being made. For the first time, they were unsure. I turned to Emily. She was already fading, becoming real again as the road took me instead. "Go," I told her. "Don't tell stories about me." She nodded, sobbing. "I won't forget." "Good," I said. "Someone has to remember me as human." The creature placed a clawed hand against my back, against the mark. "Stand," it said. I did. The road surged. Pressure slammed into me from every direction. Names, memories, deaths all trying to pass through at once. I felt towns I'd never seen collapse into me. Families I'd never known cling to my thoughts. The weight was unbearable. But it stopped. The road narrowed. The pines pulled back. The collectors recoiled, retreating into whatever cracks they'd crawled out of. The creature screamed, not in pain, but release, and dissolved into ash and feathers that scattered into the dark. I was alone, standing where the road ended, holding it shut. I don't know how long it's been. Time works differently when you become a place. I feel the barrens beneath me now, not just New Jersey, but everywhere something was forgotten and left to rot. I feel roads trying to form, pressing against me, testing my resolve. I hold. I always hold. Sometimes someone hears it anyway. If you're driving late at night and your GPS shows a road that shouldn't exist, if the woods seem closer than they should be, if you hear your name spoken in a voice that almost sounds like someone you love, turn around, don't answer, because I'm still here, and the road is always listening.